I don't know. Say it with me. I don't know. Good God, it is liberating. I am a towering mountain of ignorance. I don't know. We're taught to believe that everything has a reason. And so we observe the world, we see what happened, and then we define the thing that happened as the reason the thing happened. But I think a lot of the time we end up mixing up thinking something with knowing something. This is why it can be so impossible to talk about certain topics with certain people. They've tied those suppositions to themselves so tightly with knots of narrative and constructed reality and values that there's just no untying it. And maybe unsurprisingly, in those situations, the best course of action is just to be friends. Maybe even ask them about that thing that they've created, because to them, it's immensely valuable. The world as we perceive it, as we've built it inside of ourselves, is a lie that we tell to ourselves, not out of deception, but out of necessity. We have no other choice. We simply cannot understand the world as it is, and so we construct. But sometimes I just have to tell myself the thing that is definitely true, the truest thing I can say, which is that I don't know.
Never know.
This is the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast with Bob Pondillo and Cass Midgley.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 147 of the Everyone's Agnostic Podcast. I'm Cass Midgley. Today, Dr. Bob Pondillo and I interview Josey Woltersdorf. Josey is a 24-year-old, the eldest of 12 children, homeschooled and raised on a farm till he was 18. I think you're going to love his genuineness and his simple yet intuitive engagement with the reality in which he now finds himself. Josey's insular Christian upbringing did not prepare him for the real world, and as he entered it, his enthusiastic devotion to the love of his life, Jesus, diminished under the scrutiny of his inquiring mind and its access to the internet. Imagine the confusion when his internal compass for identifying love and integrity and truth steered him away from the corruption and dishonesty he saw within his own dearest worldview, Christianity. The Christian obsession with sexual purity and shaming locked Josey in a gerbil wheel of guilt and self-hatred with no hope of victory. The taboo forbidding that religions place on sex produces the opposite result through psychological reactance, and it can backfire on those wearing a self-imposed spiritual chastity belt. The epidemic sexual pathology within the Catholic priesthood is a perfect example of this. Human sexuality is like a river that cannot be stopped and only overflows in improper ways when dammed. During our talk, Josey refers to a court case involving charges against him that could have landed him in jail, but it didn't, the details of which he was not at liberty to discuss publicly for legal reasons. But the significant impact it had on his personal formation, he does talk about. Before we get into our talk with Josey, I received an email this week from former guest of the show on episode 110, Aaron. Like our guest today, Aaron is a young man at age 21, but unlike any of our guests, he is blind and dependent on his Christian parents, who don't know he's an atheist, nor that he's gay. He's working towards a college degree while earning income as a computer programmer. He sent me a song which he'd written and produced, which I'll play at the end, and a link to the YouTube is in the show notes. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify. In his words, it's a punk rock type song about a Christian who's desperately trying to hold on to their beliefs, but ultimately doesn't, and is happier without Christianity, unquote. When I received Aaron's email, I was curious about his situation, and I asked him for an update. He wrote back, "Unfortunately, little has changed in my life, so the situation is pretty much exactly the same as when we last spoke on my episode. I'm very good at playing it safe, so there usually aren't any holy shit moments where I've slipped up big time. I've got a part-time job working with a company overseas in addition to my own development work and part-time college. So that could, in the long term, further my independence. The problem is, and this is why I wanted to go on your show back in August, and it's also why I published this song, is that I want to be out there in circles of atheism. I can't help my current situation. but I want to be able to get my voice out there in the sense that maybe I can't be open to the people around me about the damage that Christianity has dealt me, but I can hopefully enlighten other people who aren't as sure about their religion, or maybe encourage atheists to be more passionate. It's hard to look into the future, 2 or 3 years from now when I could be more free, if it indeed could be that soon. So I've often said that it's what little activism I can do from my corner that keeps me going when I inevitably ask the question, why the hell do I even bother? I'm sure you can understand that." Unquote. If you'd like to correspond with Aaron, his email is aaron@atheist.com. One last thing before we get into Josey's interview. I'm trying a little experiment where I commit to do nothing I don't want to do. Because when I do something I don't want to do, I become susceptible to resentment. In the spirit of honesty is the best policy and establishing boundaries, I want to be honest with people when I don't want to do something, whether it's hang out or if I don't want to continue this conversation. I think we avoid this level of honesty in order to avoid hurting people. But in doing so, might we be missing out on the opportunity to teach them what agency looks like? How much personal maturation and evolution could take place if we all practiced this? People might stop taking it personal when you say, "I don't want to do this or that," if they themselves practiced that same level of honesty and self-determination with you. And what intimacy is to be fostered this way? Could we not say that all level of complaining is rooted in doing things we don't want to do? So perhaps to cease complaining, criticizing, condemning, starts here. To purge one's life of bitterness and resentment, should we not stop looking for others to change and instead change ourselves? Does this not empower us to navigate our world as one who knows what they want? One of the chores we have to do as ex-Christians is get our identity back from Jesus. This starts by getting to know oneself, liking oneself, and showing up as one's self. In so doing, we are introducing ourselves to the communities we orbit. People should know us, and they will know us, and they'll come to trust us, and they'll see clearly our strengths and weaknesses, things that we've hidden most of our lives. In order to stop doing what you don't want to do, it may be helpful to get answers to the following questions when facing choices. Is this something I care about? Does this conflict with my values, personality, or style? Is this how I want to spend my time? Will this light me up? Is this something I need in my life right now? Gaining personal agency and identity can seem selfish in an ugly way. And even though selfishness is not at all what we're going for here, there's no way around focusing on yourself while you're establishing your place in the world. In setting such a goal to not do anything you don't want to do, we have to acknowledge that it's going to get complicated, and you will have to compromise. Or should I say, get to compromise. For example, you probably don't want to go to work, but you also don't want to be without income, so you compromise. You may not have the time or energy to sit by your loved one's bedside in the hospital, but if you do it, and you've become a powerful volitional person, you and everyone else who knows you will understand just by the mere fact that you're there, it's because you want to be, in spite of the toll it's taking on you. People will start to learn that wherever you are, you're 100% there. That's a desirable reputation. Hell, that's a desirable life. To be known, to be seen. Isn't that one of the greatest of human desires? I have to add here some pitfalls to avoid in this exercise, and that's entitlement and disconnection. By entitlement, I mean overdoing the sense that the world owes you something or anything, or that you deserve certain things just because you want them, which is the mistake of placing conditions or expectations on your own happiness. As my good friend John Lukey posted on Facebook this week, quote, "Happiness is an outlook, not an outcome," unquote. If you haven't discovered contentment with your life as it is, no amount of circumstantial change is going to appease the human appetite for hedonism. My admonition today is don't do anything you don't want to. That is not to be confused with do everything you want to. The second pitfall is disconnection, and by that I mean from others. In your pursuit of self, don't forget that no man is an island. You don't exist in a vacuum, and you won't develop maturity in a vacuum. Real emotional health is fostered best within a community where you're accountable. Don't close yourself off from the feedback of trusted, loving friends, or better yet, professional therapists. To guard your heart from resenting circumstances and people, especially those people nearest and dearest to you, you owe it to them to not do anything you don't want to do. We taped this conversation on March 25th, 2017. We interview people you don't know about a subject no one wants to talk about. We hope to encourage people in the process of deconstructing their faith and help curb the loneliness that accompanies it. We think the world is a better place when more people live by sight, not by faith. Please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Our show's available on most podcast platforms. Also, you can support us monetarily in 2 easy ways. You can pledge $1 or more per episode through Patreon. That's patreon.com/EA podcast. Or leave a lump sum donation through PayPal at our website, everyone'sagnostic.com. The smallest contribution is greatly appreciated. Our opening monologue is an excerpt from a YouTube by Hank Green. The music behind it is Never Know by Jack Johnson. The segue music on this episode was created by Aaron, former guest of the show on episode 110. Thanks for listening, and be a yes-sayer to what is.
Josey.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. How about yourself? It's Bob.
Hi, Bob. It's good to hear your voice.
So, Josey, you're going to go by your name, Josey, right?
Yeah.
So you're out. You're not like incognito or anonymous.
No, actually, it's funny. My name is actually Josiah, but
Sounds too religious.
actually, it's kind of funny because I used to have a lot of pride in my name, and part of it was because Josiah went through and killed the false priests and all this stuff that I thought was a good thing. All of a sudden I was like, oh my God, he's a terrible guy.
Josey sounds better.
Yeah, Josey's a little better.
Yeah. Well, good to have you, Josey. Absolutely.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Michigan.
Oh.
Yeah, not too far away from Ann Arbor.
What do you do up there?
I'm a control electrician at a machinery shop. We build machines that grind gears for car parts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic job.
I bet.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
How'd you learn how to do this electrical? I guess you apprenticed or something, or?
That's actually a really great story. I grew up working for my dad. We were in construction and remodeling, and I have like a third cousin, like twice removed or something like that, and he needed a guy at a panel shop in Portland, Oregon, because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest.
Ah, okay.
I actually only moved here to Michigan in September, but I had no experience whatsoever in electricity or anything. And I started working at this panel shop in Portland, and I kind of clicked right in. It's really like a very analytical, very almost a Zen job. It's lots of fun.
It's a Zen job. Yeah, dealing with electrical stuff, you'd have to be pretty
You're
Zen.
running wires, landing them in terminals,
Yeah, yeah.
all day long. It's just kind of gives you a chance to think a lot.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds hazardous.
It does, doesn't it?
Is it dangerous?
No, it's really not. I mean, I guess just because of the electricity.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like me and you're terrified of getting electrocuted, you're not going to get electrocuted.
I'm like you, yes, in that
So
regard.
did you go to any tech school or anything? You just learned it from your dad?
Not from my dad. I learned it from my cousin's business.
Okay.
Right. And what is a panel shop anyway? They make panels?
Yeah, they make control panels.
Oh, control panels. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because a lot of people don't really know what a control panel is. But
Yeah.
they they basically run the world.
Okay.
You know, you have control panels that control your street lights, that control the machines that make the cookies that you buy at the store.
Okay.
They have control, you know, they
factories.
make all your car parts.
Sure.
Manufacturing drywall, like control panels are involved in almost everything you see.
Well, it sounds like you're starting to use religious terms like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, and this is replacing the God that you.
Yeah, maybe. May very well be.
I'm just shitting you.
No, but I mean, it's kind of funny you bring that up because that's actually gone through my head.
Yeah.
Several times.
Well, we're meaning-making creatures, and this is you're a part of something that is big and that runs the world, and you're an integral part of it.
I'm a little cog in a big machine.
There you go. And that's kind of what we all want,
Yeah,
right? Or at least we want to feel like we matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I really enjoy the job.
Cool.
To be honest.
so the Pacific Northwest. Tell us about your journey then. What did you start out as? I mean, what religion did you grow up in?
Yeah, I've been a Christian my whole life from ever I can remember. I remember when I was very young, I would like climb into a tree. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Okay.
And I would do this all the time when the weather was nice. I would climb this tree all the way to the top. I was probably 5 or 6. And I would just be like up there singing songs to Jesus. But at the time, we were going to a vineyard church.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called?
Vineyard.
What is that?
If you're familiar with that.
Kind of a denom.
Oh, okay. No, I don't know anything. Here's a new one. Okay,
It's-
Vineyard Church. You don't drink wine, I get. Well, maybe you do.
I don't know. We stopped going to that church when I was very young, but it's almost Pentecostal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's an offshoot of the Foursquare movement out of California.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
But then as I was getting older, my parents really got into Reformed theology.
Mm-hmm.
Cass, are you familiar with Doug Wilson at all?
The name's familiar. Remind me.
Well, he started a church movement called the CREC.
What's that stand for?
It is the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Doug Wilson, he's in
Idaho.
Yeah, but he's been in some YouTube debates with famous
Christopher
atheists.
Hitchens.
Yeah, with Hitch.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
he did. Yeah, they like went all over America, like doing tours, and I never watched it.
Now, is that the guy that wrote the book on Hitch?
Which book are you talking about?
The Faith of Christopher Hitchens.
The Faith of Christ.
I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Let me look that up.
That would really
Bob.
piss Hitch off.
No, that was Larry Taunton.
The Faith of Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah, this was a Christian guy that toured with him, and they rode in a car together a lot, and they did tour around, and they were the Christian and the atheist debaters.
Right.
And Taunton wrote this book. Basically, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I'm just going to insert this here. It's not a part of Josey's story, but I read the book. Hitch was so kind to him and so amicable. I mean, we think of Hitch as just being this fiery, tear down religion at all costs, and destroy and belittle.
Yeah.
He was an asshole in many ways when it came to belittling faith. But when it came to one-on-one,
Just a great guy.
sitting in a car for hours, you got to make peace, So
Yeah.
this Taunton guy, I think, totally mistook Hitchens'
Kindness.
kindness. Well, and Peter Hitchens, which is Christopher's brother. You never call him Chris.
Okay.
Christopher's brother is a Christian
Okay.
in England and a journalist like his brother.
I learned that the other day, and I was super surprised.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it is
watched a
surprising.
debate between the brothers, and it was actually quite fun.
Yeah, yeah. But the point is that Christopher Hitchens could be, like I said, amiable and with Christians. His own brother was one, and here he is riding in a car with Taunton, and
So
I think there was some things said that led Larry Taunton to think that secretly Christopher Hitchens had a faith.
Okay, sure.
And it was
on his deathbed.
That's interesting.
Well, it's exactly what Christopher predicted that people would say about him after his death.
Really?
Oh yeah, I just downloaded and listened to the audiobook of God Is Not Great.
Yeah.
He totally does.
Yeah. Yeah, he totally predicts it.
Well, they do that all the time. They did it to what's his name? Charles Darwin.
Yeah.
Einstein. You name it.
Deathbed confession.
Yeah, like sure. There's always going to be an atheist.
So anyway, we were Doug Wilson.
Right.
Yeah, Douglas Wilson.
Well, let me just say something about reform movement, and really, because a lot of the intellectual friends of mine that were, say, in more charismatic denominations for a while, and maybe found it wanting, because they were so smart and because they were so rigorous, this is where you end up as reformed.
Okay. If you don't go out completely, you go reformed.
It's smart people typically, and it's stoic. I think it's much more stoic than like evangelical. Praise and worship and emotionalism. It's kind of stoic.
Yeah.
And it's just smart. I mean, it's Calvinism.
Yeah.
Who was that guy that you had on your podcast a bit ago? He was, I think he was a pastor too. I want to say it was like Christ Church or something like that. He like went through a biker phase and stuff like that.
Oh, well, it's not David Mathis went through a biker phase.
I think that's him.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. When I listened to that, I really identified a lot with how he looked at his faith and saw the similarities between like how the circles that I went in and the circles that he went in. Really kind of saw Pentecostalism and kind of scoffed a little bit because their magical belief is a little too magical or something.
Right.
That kind of feeling.
I think Dave, too, in addition to the biker thing, he went to a Christian college and then eventually turned into I guess he's an atheist and a
therapist,
psychologist, yeah. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and...
so your parents went to, joined the church, that same denomination that Douglas...
Yeah, and we went to that for a while. We church hopped a lot as kids.
Mm-hmm. How many siblings you got?
I have 11 younger siblings.
Get out.
You're the oldest?
Yeah.
11, my guy. And you weren't Catholic, huh? Oh,
nope, we were basically Presbyterian.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is Reformed.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. You're being the oldest and you're only 24. And how long have you, how long you been an atheist or a non-believer, or how do you identify?
I identify as an atheist now.
Yeah, when did that happen?
It happened somewhere in the time that I was 22. I only came out as an atheist this year.
Mm-hmm. To who? To everybody?
Yeah, just to everybody. Kind of. It was kind of funny, and because all it was it was just a Facebook post of an atheist meme. I just put it out there, and it just kind of shocked everybody.
Yeah, because most of your friends were Christians, and you're...
That's really interesting because for a while I was out as an agnostic. Yeah. But I was more of like a theistic agnostic. Like, I believe there's a God, but I'm not sure... I don't think it's the God of Christianity, at least.
Yeah, like a deism, maybe.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. I was very deist, and I went through this very deist phase for a while.
It's logical. I mean, you can't just go straight from. There's a personal God running the universe who loves me and knows the number of hairs on my head,
right? To
where there's nothing. It makes sense that it's progressive or. Yeah. Stepping stones.
And as progressive as it was, it's still a jarring concept to come to grips with.
Yeah. Even at 24. I mean, I think we could say that, like myself, I was about 39 and, into my 40s when I allowed myself to entertain the notion that there is no God, and that was jarring. But I am intrigued by the fact that as a 24-year-old, and I think we can tell just by your brief testimony thus far that you were immersed in Christianity from day one.
Up on the tree singing to Jesus. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I was. It was the most important thing to me.
Now, your parents still avid Christians?
Oh yeah, they're more or less heartbroken.
I was going to ask about that.
Now,
How did
being
they
the
respond?
firstborn, do you have any siblings that have followed suit, or just you?
Yeah, actually, I followed the suit of my younger sister,
Okay.
who left before I did.
Well, let me ask you this: were they good parents?
My mom and dad, yeah, they.
Okay, so this isn't like a reaction to a really dark version of Christianity, where on Sunday morning they were perfect, but behind closed doors they were beating you or something.
Yeah, I mean, my parents aren't perfect.
Well, nobody is,
obviously,
but
but I mean, they loved us and everything. One of the hardest things, and still to this day, one of the hardest things is it's hard for me to see all these beliefs around sexuality.
Yeah.
And things like that. That was the hardest thing through my adolescence, was the
homophobia,
repression of sexuality, and not just homophobia, but purity doctrine and virginity and all that stuff.
Yeah, just the emphasis on sex in general it's just obsessive almost.
Yeah, it is.
That's one thing that Hitch always said was, of all the things in the world that God's concerned about, it's what we do in our bedrooms. Just seems to be a big deal, and I think so. How do you identify in your sexual orientation?
I'm bi, or maybe pansexual. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm still figuring that out. But I have a girlfriend right now, and we live together here in Michigan. I met her in Oregon this summer.
Cool. So she came to see you, huh? Came to be with you.
Came to stay.
Yeah.
Not just see you.
I came. Oh,
you went that way.
I came out with her. She.
That's what got you out of from the West Coast to Michigan.
Yep,
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
September, we took a long road trip and moved all our stuff out here, and she started a program at the university here in town. She wants to open up a restaurant, so she went into business management and hospitality.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So was there something specific about Michigan? Does she have any roots there, or you just...
Yeah, all of her family's
Okay.
here in Michigan.
Okay.
Yep.
You didn't just throw a dart at the map.
No. No, but I mean, she didn't throw a dart at the map. I basically threw a dart at the map. She was like, I have to go back to Michigan at the end of the summer, after we met. And I was like, and she offered for me to come along, and I was like, you know what? I've been looking for an adventure, new beginnings, all that kind of thing. And I said, yeah. I would love to come out there.
And you went
with
out there without the job and found it after you got there?
Yeah, originally I thought I wanted to go back into carpentry and construction. And I got a job here, and it was absolutely miserable. And I was glad that I decided to try it and see how I liked it still, so I could at least cross that off of the list of
so
things.
it was a carpentry job.
Yeah, but then I found this job through some serendipity. So
And you absolutely love it. So that's good.
Yeah, I do, and it's very similar to the job I had in Portland, which I love too.
Super.
But I kind of wanted to talk about the churches we went to.
Sure, go ahead.
So after the RCC, which was the CREC church, the Douglas Wilson, you know that. That church, we found one that was a lot closer to home because that was an hour drive away. It was a Presbyterian church, and it was a bummer for me at the time when we switched churches because I was like just starting to make friends and things there at that church. When we decided to move to this new church.
Well, speaking of making friends and 11 children, were you homeschooled?
Yeah.
Yep. Called it.
And that I think has a big
Impact.
influence. An impact on who I am today, and also how I internalized religion and faith. Because I really didn't have anyone outside of my worldview in my life.
Right. Yeah.
I had the people I lived with who believed the same things exactly as the people I worked with. believed exactly the same things as my broader social circle, which was the church. So I was kind of like cut off in this island of Christianity and
So what happens after you get out of high school, probably at 18 or so, homeschool, high school?
Yeah, 17, homeschool, yeah.
What'd you do then? You go to college?
No.
I started working for your uncle.
I've always wanted to go to college. We grew up on a farm.
Wow. How insular does this get?
Yeah, really.
Oh, it's pretty, yeah.
So, I mean, at what point how much TV were you allowed to watch?
Well, I worked a lot. I worked a lot for my dad, and I worked a lot on the farm.
No time for TV.
I didn't really enjoy TV or movies that much.
Okay.
But I love the internet.
There you go.
Okay.
And that ended up being my kind of
demise
as a Christian, yeah. The internet has lots of information on it, which is kind of an amazing thing.
That's okay. So this is let's capture that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the insulated life, completely sheltered, and maybe do you have any memories of like the first time that you broached or engaged the real world, and how shocking, or any kind of memories like that?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny looking back on what life was like for me then. Is kind of like looking back through a fog.
Yeah.
It was when I really started engaging the outside world that I really deconverted.
Yeah.
But before that, my sister and I had gone on a road trip for a business training for my dad's business. But I do remember how jarring it was. It was like the first time I met an atheist when we were out on this road trip. And we sat down, and I remember this person telling me that they were an atheist, and I was very confused. and all of a sudden I got very defensive.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah didn't get so defensive.
Your sister?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Hannah's always been quite a bit more open-minded than I have.
Okay.
But I think such a person exists.
Mind-blowing. Yeah.
That you could be on this earth, see this beautiful creation, and not believe in God? What?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck?
How can you not believe in God?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shocking and a little scary, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. So how did you meet this person? Were you just...
What was the context?
Yeah, traveling through, you stopped to get something to eat, and there he was, or she? Or
yeah,
who?
they were actually a couple of musicians.
Well, there you go.
In downtown Boise, Idaho. And we were out, like, having fun in downtown. Neither of us were 21, so we couldn't go hang out at the bar with the rest of the business people. Mm-hmm. We were 20 and 18, and so instead we went walking through downtown to see if there was anything good to eat and any good places to hang out. We met basically a couple of hippies playing music on the street, mm-hmm. and we sat down and we played music with them and danced and had a blast. And after all of this, we all decided to go get something to eat together.
Now, what instrument do you play?
I play a few instruments. Actually, I was just playing my guitar, but I've got a couple of ukuleles and I have a cello, which
wow,
I don't play very well, but...
Okay, so you see these street musicians. Somehow you grab an instrument and play along. Then you go out to eat.
Yeah, they had like tambourines and stuff with them.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing anything that I had brought with me.
No, right.
This time, but yeah, I mean...
You play a killer tambourine?
Oh, man. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not kidding. That's actually a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah.
No,
because I'm good at tambourine.
Oh, okay.
God damn it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't care what anybody says.
More cowbell.
More cowbell. Okay, so you go to dinner with these guys, and you're just small talking, and maybe the concept of God comes up, and he says, "Oh, well, I'm an atheist."
I think it was me who brought it up because I was always trying to share God's love with everyone that I came in contact with.
Yeah.
You know, like be a good evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
And these two, they're very liberal and they're atheists, and I had never really, I knew that they were atheists, and I had read what atheists had said on the internet and stuff.
It's not that you didn't know they existed, but to meet one. Here's how it goes. You can say, something about God, and and then if somebody says something like this, they say it fast and flippant, and as if they were saying, "I had Cheerios this morning." Yeah. They say, "Oh, well, I don't believe in God," and bam, you can be crushed to your core. You can be scared shitless. You can be weirded out. You can, if you're in that space, and to them, they're like, like I said, it's something just.
What's the problem?
No big deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yet I can feel in Josey's, where he's sitting, the earth just shook,
Okay.
Yeah, just a minor tremor, because I was not willing to even consider atheism at the time. But the real earth-shattering moment came when I left the Presbyterian church we were going to for a number of reasons, mostly because of just corruption of the
church politics.
Yeah, church politics. We had a bunch of elders who felt like they were the spokespersons of God, and that, they held all the rules and we should follow their example because they were doing it right and we were doing it wrong. And
the old guard. When you reached the age of 18, your parents let you choose where you go to church?
No, the court case revealed a lot of things about the elders that I couldn't stand, and I went to my parents and I basically, this is what I see in the elders of my church and I can't stand it and I need to find a new church. And they were pretty reasonable and they said, that sounds like good reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
They eventually started coming to the same church as me.
So you left and you started going to a different church and they eventually followed you.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the hardest thing about growing up and being so basically on fire for Jesus is my dad really, he seemed to look up to me a lot.
He respected you.
Because of that.
Yeah. You followed your heart, you had strong convictions, and you were taking the high road, and he honored that.
Yeah, and I mean, I still am. I just don't believe in God anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's good. Exactly.
You're still doing all of the above, following your heart, your
doing
convictions, doing the right thing.
Guy with integrity.
And he's just not going to follow you down that path, at least for now.
Yeah.
Too much at stake for him.
For sure.
What's your relationship with them now?
Right now, it's not so good.
Yeah. Well, you moved away.
Yeah, I moved away.
And you're shacking up with a girl, right?
Yep.
Well, there you go.
Shacking You're living in sin.
That's right. We're suddenly in the 1960s here. You're shacking up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't talk to my dad anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be hard.
And that's my choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, any trying to understand or come to terms has always ended badly, and I don't really know what else to do except for hopefully
abstain.
Not talk to him for a while, and hopefully that time heals things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's wise.
Okay, so you changed churches, they follow. Then what?
I changed churches shortly before I started working at that panel shop in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a family at the church who needed a roommate, and I was excited to learn about what living on your own was like. Mm-hmm. Especially because I had a new lease on life, because I thought I was going to go to jail.
Okay.
You had thought that, and then you were acquitted.
Yeah, basically.
Expunged.
Yeah. And so I had a new lease on life, and I wanted to explore and find new things, and I was like, it's kind of a near-death experience almost, you're, even today, the thought of going to jail is worse than dying to me.
Yeah, you were scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I to this day, I would still rather die than go to jail.
Yeah.
That's no kind of existence I want to be a part of.
Right.
And so all of a sudden I wanted to try new things, and and do stuff, and it hadn't occurred to me at that point that doing any of the above would ever come into conflict with my Christianity.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Did your dad or your mom bring up the prodigal son story?
Not that I remember.
Because here you are you get this opportunity to go be a roommate, So how old are you when you're considering the roommate thing?
This was when I was 21.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went for it, my job and my friends and my church was all in Portland. And so I went for it. And all of a sudden I had a lot of autonomy.
Yeah. And you're 21, so you don't actually have to get their permission. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And that's kind of how I looked at it at the time because like I said, I just went through that intense experience of being afraid of going to jail. Mm-hmm. And now I don't have to do that, and I was not going to let anyone slow me down.
Sure.
Not even my parents.
Were you the first one to move out?
No, my younger sister was.
Hannah?
Yeah.
I like Hannah.
Yeah.
Hannah is a badass.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Hannah introduced me to a substance that would change my life forever.
All right.
A chemical substance of some kind?
Yeah.
Okay.
LSD.
Oh,
really?
wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, it flows like water over there in Portland, to be honest.
Yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
Those can be spiritual experiences, though, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man.
You found the real God.
I remember the first time I dropped acid with my sister, and it was like, that passage in the Bible where Saul becomes Paul and the scales fall from his eyes?
Right.
It was like I had scales on my eyes for my entire life.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like, I was obsessed with ideas and books and getting the truth and, like, understanding God's word. And I couldn't make any sense of it because I interpret it one way, but you interpret it in another way. How, like, what's truth? And I was so confused. And all of a sudden I ate this acid and I looked at a flower and I just realized that I'd never really looked at a flower before.
Wow. I'm serious.
And I started crying, I was like, I haven't paid attention to my life.
I think that's so poignant.
Yeah, it's really quite a beautiful story.
Here's the thing about Christianity or any religion, probably for that matter, is it does take you out of the moment. It does take you out of reality.
Sure.
Your head is in the clouds, literally.
Yep.
And that's beautiful.
A lot of people joke around about LSD and say it makes you go insane and all this stuff, but, like, for the first moment in my entire life, I felt sane all of a sudden.
Well, actually, it's being used right now for mental health. Not to make you crazy. It makes you healthy. It's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and
wow, I didn't know that.
Well, ayahuasca and a lot of other things. I mean, there's a lot of hallucinogenics that are actually helping people right now.
Sure. Well, just the whole American Native Indian thing, Native American thing, where they take some kind of drug, and I don't know, and then literally become one with the universe. They finally get it, and
which is actually truer. I mean, we say it all the time, Bob. It's one of your most repeated phrases that I see you, I see me.
Yeah, right.
That
I don't need drugs for that.
I love that.
The interconnected web of all things.
Right.
That's reality.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like when you take the drug, you're entering reality.
Wow.
And our reality is a lie.
Oh, okay.
In some ways it is.
So, some people get that, but some people don't. And so this is a little prompt to get you where you should be in the first place, which is seeing you and others, because we're all the same. We're all connected.
Well, and seeing the flower for the first time.
Seeing the flower, absolutely.
Which some people can see without the drug. That's what you're saying, for sure. Yeah. But,
everybody really can. It's just sometimes you need that shock. You need a jolt.
Yeah.
Like, stop and smell the flowers.
Yeah. But I mean, especially when it's been pounded into your head and you're living on a farm completely with no other social interaction except with your parents and kids, your siblings. Wow.
Yeah, at one point, Hannah said LSD saved her life. She attempted suicide
Wow.
before she had taken it for the first time. And she came to a similar kind of peace that I did, a very similar story with her friends. It was really, I think, indicative of something wrong, the fact that both Hannah and I were very suicidal at the very end of our faith journey. I keep going back to the sexuality because porn was a large part of my teenage years and my inability to, fight the porn addiction and whatnot. That had also driven me to basically religious extremism because I couldn't fix myself. God wouldn't fix me. I was at the end of my rope, and I was on the verge of I couldn't see a way out because nobody else had any better ideas because they were all people I knew from church.
Yeah. Josey, you know that passage in Romans where Paul says, I hate what I do, and I do what I hate, and I can't stop.
Yeah.
Do you know how much I hate that passage?
I know, right? Seriously.
Because it is possible to do what you want.
Yeah.
And to want to do what you do.
Exactly. Thank you.
It really is.
And Paul's helplessness and hopelessness is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it's like, dude, wake up, get a life.
But you experienced it. You lived it. You actually probably could have written those very verses in the place that you were in. Now you know better. But at the time, this type of religion and at least the concept of sin, the concept of sin nature, can hamstring your agency to the point where you do feel helpless and hopeless to actually be volitional.
In fact, at one point, it was kind of how I undid this was I kind of realized that one day I was feeling so basically hopeless about it and super guilty because I just, sinned again, God damn it. And I thought, you know what? I can do one of two things. I can just try to stop looking at porn like I've tried to do my entire life, and obviously it's not working. Or I can stop feeling guilty about it.
There you go. Dude, we are brothers of a different mother, man, because this is exactly what I went through.
Yeah.
And eventually you stop apologizing for what it means to be human. You stop apologizing for your sexuality. I didn't ask to be this fucking driven by sex.
Yeah.
I didn't ask to be excited about nudity. I didn't ask for any of this shit.
Yeah, right.
Like if I had my choice at the time, believing in God and believing in all these arbitrary moral restrictions and so forth, at the time I would have if I could redesign myself, I would have redesigned myself as an asexual human.
Yeah.
But I'm not that.
Well, this is why when some people get so crazed about it, they'll castrate themselves.
Oh, my.
I mean, you can see where that's going.
I considered it.
Yep.
Like, obviously, it takes money, and it's something that I would have had to do, secretly, because I would have been ashamed of it, but it did go through my head several times.
This is the degree of self-hatred that Christianity and this, like I said, this notion of sin, this notion of judgment and condemnation for being a stench in God's nostrils just for being who you are. And you want so badly to please God. You want so badly to be loyal and faithful and true.
Which is like a terrible exploitation of beautiful human characteristics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boom. I love you, Josey.
I love you too. I've so much enjoyed listening to your guys' podcast. They have given me almost friends in a place where I don't have very many friends right now. The Michigan winter kind of sucks. And
that's awesome. Well, one thing I'm going to do is I'll add you to, we have 2 groups on Facebook that are secret because some of the people are still in the closet, but they're basically support groups for listeners of the show and former guests of the show. And it is a community.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'll add you. I can add you right now.
You.
I'm actually looking at pictures of Hannah. I stalked her.
Oh.
She got a nose ring.
She's quite a hippie, isn't she?
Yeah. I'm telling you, she's impressive.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
That's
I want to have her on.
Oh, you do. Let me tell you.
Wow.
You do want to have her
Well,
on.
maybe you can hook me up.
It's amazing.
Is she still out in the Northwest? Where is she now?
Yeah, she's living in Seattle right now, actually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let's get back to your story. Where maybe, Bob and I always ask this, and it's redundant for us, but what were the points, the breaking points, the holes in the dam or whatever that kind of broke loose for you?
Yeah. For example, some people say, well, the hell thing, that's what did it for me, or something else.
The treatment of LGBT.
Yeah, or the treatment of gays and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So what was your thing?
I was always kind of anti-LGBT myself.
Really?
You would have to be. He was raised that. He's brainwashed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was totally like I fell along those lines very, very hard. It took a long time for me to question any of that, but the more I look back on my life, the more I realize how early those seeds of doubt were sown.
Sure.
For instance, I remember when I was very young, when we were still going to the Vineyard Church, I asked my dad, why did Jesus need to die on a cross and get tortured? Why couldn't God just forgive us? And I never got a good answer to that question, ever.
Wow.
Well, I can tell you what I used to believe and what got me by, and that was if you raped my wife or my mother and you came to me and asked for forgiveness, I've still got all this, I've got a lot of energy around this fucking moment. And you fucking rapist. And so I'm either going to beat the shit out of you, or I'm going to beat the shit out of my dog, or I'm going to punch a hole in this drywall. I've got some energy that has to go somewhere in order
interesting.
In order for justice to be served, at least in my heart.
Yeah.
And so, but basically what the problem with that is it makes God to be very human. Instead of him being
very ruled by passions.
Crimes of passion.
Which Christians don't generally like to attribute to God.
No, they would never acknowledge that.
They like to attribute a lot of human things to God, but in my experience, human passions are something that they don't really like to.
No, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, no shadow of turning, all of this, immutable. And yet, that's how I took it, is it's like I'm not forgiving you until there's bloodshed. That's interesting. That's what I used to say, and that's obviously substitutionary atonement and scapegoating.
Yeah.
Or just judicial system, you've got to pay.
Yeah, that's how I justified it. Was the whole judicial system of heaven, basically, that humans commit sin. This is a fact. You can't really refute it. That's how we said it then. Yeah. Obviously, it's refutable. But
well, we're fallible. I think that's irrefutable. I think that's one of the things that makes Christianity seem so true, is that when somebody says nobody's perfect, everybody goes, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a universal truth. It's not just all have sinned and fallen short.
But it's, what it is to me, it's like a tangle of Christmas lights. I mean, what a mess to put yourself through this, you know what I mean? And then to try to figure it out, and oh man.
Yeah. Because you have a problem, and then you have a problem with having the problem. Like you have a problem in that I have a problem that Jesus had to die. That's what Josey.
Then you have the problem of those two problems interacting with each other.
So there's your Christmas lights. Thank you, Lord.
My gosh, just to put yourself through that, man.
Well, God, he didn't put himself through it. He walked right into it.
I know.
He's
I mean, he couldn't do it any other way.
That was all I knew.
Yeah.
Gee whiz. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I mean, it's heartbreaking. It is. These are the kind of stories that I just sit and think, what the hell? And yet, what are you going to do?
Well, this is where some people also say child abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to not, but I also know that the people committing abuse against each other don't really have to have a bad motive involved.
Right. Yeah, they don't know they're doing
really
it.
Interesting.
Yeah. They think they're helping you, actually. They're this is the way, the path.
And so it's hard to fault anybody, but it just is what it is, and it's unfortunate.
Well, there is no malice. That's we can say.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's still wrong.
Exactly.
The fruit of it is wrong. And I'm grateful for the likes of Josey and Hannah who escape and build a new life. And of course, you're on the first quarter of your life. So
yeah, that's a lot like standing on the edge of an ocean. You know, like having to cross it, but not knowing which way to go. But another one of these points was I had the job of milking the cows as a kid. And I loved it. Loved it because I got to go out and milk the cow, and I got to think for a long time by myself, just me and the cow and the bucket. And
cool.
And I remember thinking a lot about heaven and about morality and about love and about why I'm following God and that sort of thing. That was almost consumed my thoughts before I became a teenager. And I remember I decided on several occasions that heaven didn't really make sense for moral beings because then you're doing something not out of the goodness of your heart, but you're kind of being disingenuous and you're just doing good things because you want to get to heaven. So that was another seed that just kind of like stewed in the back of my mind. And then I got very caught up in young earth creationism in high school.
Boy.
Because we had a biology book that totally misrepresented the facts, and Ken Ham came and spoke at our church.
Oh dear.
And my grandpa, while he's a Christian, he also believes in an old earth. Not believes in, it's not a belief. Like when there's that much evidence, it's not a belief anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But he's still a Christian. He holds the old earth creationist view, and being a fundamentalist, reformed little asshole punk of a teenager, we had so many online debates with my grandpa and me and my friends, and we just drove him up a wall. I know we did, because he'd call my dad on occasion during that time, and I could hear him yelling on the phone.
Torturing your grandpa.
Yeah, basically. I feel so bad for some of the things that I've told people throughout my life in faith, and for the people that I've led to faith. You know, it's hard.
You're telling me.
It's hard to like come to grips with the fact that, and I've tried to go to one guy in particular who I spent a lot of time with over campfires at his house, you know, trying to convince him of the gospel and everything. And I finally did, and he started going to this church, which I soon realized was a garbage church. And eventually did, actually a couple months ago, try to contact him and say, hey,
sorry.
I know you might not understand this, but I have to say this and I have to get it off my conscience.
Wow.
And he totally didn't understand it, and it made me feel a little worse at first.
That's hard.
You know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't really sure why I did it, but at the end of the day, I was just like, I kind of just did that for my conscience, and I knew that he wouldn't understand.
Well, you know, we talk about agency a lot in here. We're all our own personal agent. And, you know, you may have said something, but you apologize for it. And
well, he's apologizing for leading him to Jesus.
Right. And but you know, a person's got to figure that out for themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know,
you got to turn them loose, both.
Yeah, you really do. So, but I understand that feeling. Oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
See, and I know Cass feels that way sometimes too, because he was a pastor.
Yeah, I've led hundreds of people to Jesus.
So
I wanted to be a pastor.
Sure. It's the pinnacle of service, yeah. But I can say gladly and celebratorily that hundreds of the people that I discipled and I was influential as a spiritual leader in their lives are also atheists today.
Really?
Well,
not all of them, but most. Most.
Well, the younger, the more likely.
Yeah, sure.
And
because of YouTube.
I'm telling you, it is because of YouTube.
That's right. You're right.
Well, I think there's no way around giving that like 90% credit, but it certainly seems that, I don't know, this is me and my evolutionary hope. I mean, like, this is me putting faith in evolution.
Yeah.
And even though evolution, it takes billions of years for anything to show up, I'm looking at generations, and saying, there's something about these kids coming straight out of the womb that seem to have a better bullshit detector than previous generations. It just seems to, I don't know if it's evolutionary or not, but it just, you're hard pressed right now to find 20-somethings that are really excited about Jesus in church.
Yeah, that's very true.
Maybe I'm living a sheltered world or something. Okay, so going back to this idea of heaven being a self-interested thing, and yet Christianity is supposed to be others-interested,
right.
It seems hypocritical. It is hypocritical. Mm-hmm. And I'll even double on that and say that I always said this, even when I was a preacher, I said this from the pulpit, that if I'm in heaven and one of my children is in hell, how is heaven going to be fun for me?
Yeah.
I remember that thought going through my head, too. Not about children, obviously, but about friends and so forth.
Sure, yeah,
parents.
anybody. Yeah, anybody. Like, if you're even aware. So I used to think that God was going to have to just, that little, Men in Black, just zap your memory.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but the great thing about heaven, the great thing about heaven is you're going to meet your loved ones again.
Yeah, but only the ones that are there. The little zap would erase the memory of as if they never existed. Otherwise, how could you?
That was kind of the conclusion I came to as well.
So how did that contribute to your deconversion?
So like I said, that thought really formed in my head before I became a teenager even, it was through my teenage years that I became most intensely religious. And I became more and more intensely religious as it got closer to me just completely unraveling.
Well, it happens a lot when people double down, Mm-hmm. So, like, if they feel their faith is slipping, they intensify.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's what I was doing, totally. Because like when you start having doubts, you start feeling like you're under attack from Satan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you gonna want to try to
pray more,
hold on to it,
read
more. Yeah.
Seek God's face longer.
Yeah, like I sought out monastic rituals and things even.
Yeah.
Wow. Josey, when you say see Satan, do you actually see
Nobody sees Satan. He's just talking about
But how do you, it's a creature of some kind? I'm sorry. I get too literal, I suppose.
No, he's just saying that when your doubt is overwhelming you, then you feel the target, like you really are being attacked in a severe way.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't see Satan. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But you do feel attacked.
Okay.
Yeah, you're being singled out more than ever.
Because you distrust your own thoughts on such a fundamental level.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know if they're from God or if they're from Satan or from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a really confusing place to be as a human being.
Sure.
And like I said, I got more and more intense. And then I met a friend shortly after I started going to the church in Portland who went to, my sister enters the story again, this coffee shop that my sister worked at in Washington. And he was Anglican. He grew up Seventh-day Adventist. But he was reading a book by an author I'd really liked at the time called N.D. Wright.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, N.T. Wright, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, N.T. Wright.
Very progressive.
Oh, man, I still love his stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. British guy with a ponytail, right?
I'm not sure if he has a ponytail or not, does he?
I think I've seen him speak before.
He has a big beard.
Yeah, I think he's, Anyway, I'm sorry.
He's a brilliant biblical scholar.
Sure.
And a lot of the textual criticism and stuff also really led me to really distrust my Bible, which I had grown up trusting.
Mm-hmm.
But it was my friend Adam who really kind of gave me permission to listen to my doubts and not be afraid of them, because that's what he did. And he was still a Christian. And so I was like, wow, you can do this?
Mm-hmm.
And felt really good to be able to listen to myself, you know?
Yeah.
And
Well, you can tell yourself that God's big enough.
yeah.
I used to tell the kids that I discipled, I said, look, if Jesus isn't the truth, then let's move on. I mean, I had that kind of confidence that Jesus was the truth.
So did I. I would tell people who were afraid of other points of view. As my faith kind of became a little bit more
Robust.
robust and more nuanced and more, as I got older, you know, like my faith intensified, but it also kind of changed flavor, you know?
Yeah.
And I started saying things like, if this is true, then we should have no problem being able to trust it and living like it's true. And if you live like it's true and it fails you, then it's not true, and you can pitch that part.
Yeah.
And keep going, you know. I was under no impression that was in any way going to endanger my faith or anything.
That's the beginning.
Because that's how much faith you had.
Right.
Because faith, by definition in the Bible, is being sure and certain of what you hope for and what you cannot see. So your certainty in that, hey, Jesus is God, and he's so God that he doesn't need me or anyone to prop it up or defend it. He can hold it up high and set it up against all scrutiny, and it will stand.
Okay.
And it just doesn't. Though.
And it doesn't.
But what you said, though, Josey, is, but if it doesn't work for you, you can pitch it. And then you can pitch the next thing and the next thing, and before you know it, you got nothing. What do you got?
Yep, you got yourself.
Exactly.
Well, here we find ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
And it was a time when me and my best friend Adam we went on a road trip together to the beach. The beach isn't very far away when you live in Portland.
Okay.
It's a couple hours.
All right.
We stood out there, and the stars were out, and the waves were crashing on the beach. The Oregon coast is a beautiful thing to behold, I'll tell you that. But we stood out there, and we were just kind of like reminiscing together how small we are and how much like the universe really doesn't care about us.
There you go.
And
this was without acid.
and at the time we were like, and yet God cares about us.
Yeah, right.
And we were both like, wow, that's amazing. And the next morning we came back into town to go to church, but on our way to church we started throwing around the possibility that there was no heaven. We started it like this. The Israelites didn't believe in heaven, but they served God, and we were like, why? I was like, well, it was because he was so obvious. He was right there, you know, making all these miracles and happen and stuff.
Yeah.
And
well, just it's blessed to find great delight in the ways of the Lord. I mean, on earth, you can remove heaven, and it's actually like I think where you're heading is it's actually more integrity.
Yeah.
To do it for less, selfish reasons. It's just the right thing to do. Not that I'm going to be rewarded or not punished.
Yeah, and so Adam and I went back and forth throwing ideas around, and both of us came to the conclusion together that heaven is a useless concept. And that we can still serve God anyways. And
the pieces are falling.
Yeah, and that really all of a sudden made me feel like a heretic, which was kind of a cool feeling. But
really? How about that?
Well, Jesus condemned the Pharisees. I mean, there was people that thought they were religious. You can be a pretty spiritual or religious dissident and feel in tune with Jesus.
Yeah.
Still.
Sure. I also like the way Jesus said, well, just keep that to yourself. You want to pray? Go pray over there.
Yeah, pray in the closet.
Don't be so showy.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
He condemned that too.
Yeah.
What happened to the people who listened to that advice?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where they are.
I guess they're off in their closet somewhere.
They're minding their own business, but not the conservative Republican Family Values Party.
That's for sure.
All right, Josey, we're going to have to wrap it up. We're into an hour and a half of tape, and
wow.
But let's come into the home stretch here. So you're about 2 years out, or not out, but at least deconverted, and then about 1 year out or less.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
how about your girlfriend? Is Bailey also?
She did not grow up religious at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my relationship with Bailey is kind of similar to your relationship with Cass there, Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, she goes, I don't understand this at all. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and Josey and I look at Bob and Bailey and say, y'all lucky motherfuckers.
Yep.
You got out without, all this, like you said, the Christmas lights, the nonsense.
It's all the tango. Wow.
So what do you and Bailey do for fun?
We like to go do different things. We go to Ann Arbor sometimes and have fun out there. Most of the fun things we do here in Howell are kind of limited to going drinking every once in a while, and but we watch a lot of Bob's Burgers and Netflix together. And
what's Bob's Burgers?
Oh, it's great.
We work out sometimes. Bob's Burgers is great.
I've never heard of it.
It's a show on Fox. It's an animated show called Bob's Burgers.
Okay.
In fact,
it's super cute.
Yeah. You sound a little bit like the daughter, not the crazy one with the ears, but the other one.
Oh, Tina?
Tina. You sound like Tina, the way she talks, a little bit like that. Yeah. I mean that in a good way, of course.
Yeah.
Tina's very bright. She's also very sexual, or at least she thinks she is.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, I think I identify with Tina a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit more. That makes me comfortable.
So you said there at the end before I cut you off that you guys work out.
Yeah.
You have a regimen.
Yeah, she plays lacrosse.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And I don't do anything nearly as intense, but we're getting ready to do some triathlons and stuff this summer when she doesn't have to do lacrosse anymore. So
Cool.
that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I used to ride my bike everywhere in Portland, so I'll be able to get back into riding my bike. And
Cool. Hey, did you ever see Portlandia being made there when you were in Portland?
No, but I have watched Portlandia, and if you're wondering, it is very accurate.
It's a great show. Fred Armisen, well, he's outstanding.
I'm interested that he's saying that it's accurate. I mean, I would think it would just be such a huge overblown caricature that it...
Well, it's a caricature, but man.
Well,
But
it
he's
is
saying
a
it's-
caricature, but it's not an overblown caricature by any means.
Yeah.
Honestly, not.
Yeah.
Carrie Brownstein and Fred Armisen, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane how similar it is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, Josey, thanks so much for sharing your story, and I hope that it's an encouragement to our listeners, and thanks for your bravery.
Thanks, you guys. You guys were wonderful to talk to.
Oh, thanks, man. Great talking to you, too. Wow. What a story. Gee.
I'm speechless.
I know.
So, to be completely honest, we have just finished this interview.
Right.
We're taping our normal post show, and we're sitting here trying to decide how much of that we can include.
Yeah.
So insular.
So yeah, just insulated from
That's it.
everything.
That's it in a nutshell. You got basically 12 kids,
Yeah.
and they're still going.
Yeah.
As far as we know, he's the oldest at 26, 24? 24.
24. Yeah. Yeah.
Lives on a farm, homeschooled, no interaction with real world.
Yeah. No social interaction outside of the family, and yet you've got human beings who are young people who are discovering themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and their sexuality and what have you.
And the thing about, I've said it before, it's common sense, but anytime that you create taboo, you create energy toward the very thing that you're forbidding.
Yeah.
So you can go anywhere in my house, Bob, but you can't go in this closet.
And that's where I want to go.
Immediately.
Exactly.
The energy immediately pulls you to that very forbidden thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was somebody who recently, and again, common sense, but somebody's got to say it. Every form of sexual inappropriate or dysfunction can be traced back to some way that sexuality was dammed up and the river flowed around it.
Sure.
So obviously Catholic priests.
Yeah. Repression or whatever. It's
As
called.
opposed to just letting them
Yeah.
be sexual creatures. We're animals, goddammit. You dam that up, and that water is going to go somewhere. That's what I'm saying, man. There's hardly anything more powerful and compelling than sex. Mm-hmm. It's why we're here. You and I are talking because it's a strong drive. Otherwise, if sex wasn't so good and so fun and so powerful and so driven, mm-hmm. life is too hard. We wouldn't wish this on anybody.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want to stay very long. But not only the occasional orgasm makes it worthwhile, but to actually procreate and keep your gene going, your family tree growing. So you can't stop this thing. And obviously there are no gods, but the gods have tried to stop it from time eternal. Mm-hmm. Humans have tried to control it from time eternal. You can't. And the moment you try, and any effort, chastity belts, all this shit for over the centuries.
Yeah, sure.
The most healthy version of sexual expression has to be one that is the least restrained and tabooed by shame and condemnation. Mm-hmm. We don't condemn ourselves for it's 6 o'clock, Bob. Are you hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. We don't go, oh, shame on you for being hungry. We don't shame ourselves for having other natural impulses.
Yeah.
You're flashing your eyelids over there.
Yeah.
Stop it. You sinful creature, you.
I can't help it, though.
Right. And nor can we help our sexuality.
Yeah.
So much harm has been done.
I know. What's wrong? It's cool. He even said, he wanted to sit down and share God's love with everyone. And what he wanted to do was share his love with everyone.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
And it made me think, that's really what you're saying, but instead it has to be cloaked in other language.
Here's the evil of that, is we talk about co-opting and how so-and-so borrows somebody's name to promote themselves or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, here is an imaginary being co-opting our innate love.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even exist. So we've created an imaginary being that in turn co-opts our natural drive and impulse to love one another. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we literally create a creature that robs us of our own agency to love one another. We have to give him credit. Yeah. He gets glory for all the good that we do. We are so embarrassed to be who we are.
To be human.
And this is why the fig leaf is actually not a bad little picture of how fucked up we got when we tried to cover up what it means to be us, and ashamed of what it means to be us. Because just as much as somebody doesn't like to be exposed for doing bad, we also don't like to be exposed for doing good. That's what this is about in some ways. Because for me to say, hey, he wants to spread his love to the world.
Right.
But somebody back in human history decided that it was too shameful to take credit for their own desire to make the world a better place. And so God has put it in my heart to spread his love around the world. And therefore you could go and do what you were already going to do with or without this invisible friend.
Yeah, sure.
But now you get to pass on the glory, just like we want to pass on the shame.
Yeah. But, some of us aren't interested in glory. We're just interested in helping, Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't need a trophy or anything for helping somebody. That's what I do. If you want to give me one, fine.
But see, that's where I'm going. Is like, if they do give you one, take it.
Okay. All right. Yes, I'll take it.
Because that's what I think is pushing this desire to create a God to take glory, because we're too embarrassed or proud.
Yeah. But in the end, it's a fucking trophy, and it could, it could break and you could throw it away. Do it because it's good, not because someone will praise you. Yeah. Just because it's good.
Well, now we're getting back to our guests' criticism of heaven.
Yeah.
Is that do the right thing, not because you're going to avoid hell or enter heaven, just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
There you go.
It makes sense to me. Woo, what a show.
Yeah, man.
What a show. Thanks man.
Thanks
Good
a
one.
lot.
Let's do another one. I love these.
I know, right?
I always
It keeps
learn
going.
new stuff. Yeah. All right.
Talk
See
to
you
you
next
later.
time.
I sat down on the front pew, not exactly sure just what I should do. I bowed my head and prayed for good. I'm not sure if he even understood. Maybe he only speaks Hebrew. That was my excuse as I left the front pew. God, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please, won't you help my unbelief? No one answered because no one was there. Your only hope is the sound of a silent prayer. You look to heaven 'cause you're not happy anywhere. I wish you no ill will, I hope that you get there. Oh, not happy anywhere. Oh, I really hope that you get there. I sat down, looked in the rear view. For the very first time, I knew just what to do. I left the stigma and the dogma behind, severing the chains that bind. Before this change, I only spoke Hebrew. That was my thought as I said my last words to you. God, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please, won't you help my unbelief? Because no one was there. My only hope was the sound of a silent prayer. You still look to heaven because you're not happy anywhere. I wish you no ill will, I hope that you get there. But you won't find heaven